I'll tell you a secret, ladies and men, don't take any offense to this. I'm just not recovering well in the gym, or, my injuries aren't healing, or, my mood's been a little low. That's very common as we age. Men go through andropause just like women go through menopause. Truly believe that if you need testosterone replacement therapy as a man and you do not receive it, your rates and risks of type 2 diabetes definitely go up. And I would say, how's your testosterone? All right, on this episode of the Dr. Tina Show, this one is for the men. I have a very hunky middle-aged husband, and I want to talk to you today. I'm going to do this in 30 minutes or less because I know, men, you don't like to sit here and listen to the long-form podcasts. 7 signs that your testosterone may be low, that your doctor doesn't know, that you may be overlooking and ignoring, and none of them have anything to do with low libido or erectile dysfunction. So let's jump in. All right, so first up, I'm going to admit fully, my favorite group of patients to treat are men, middle-aged men. I love treating middle-aged men. I have great success treating middle-aged men. Dudes are easy. Dudes are compliant. There's not a lot of emotion involved. Their hormones are much simpler. It's just all around. I'm a tomboy, so most of my friends growing up were guys, and I get along well with the dudes. And for some reason, the way that I deliver the information tends to resonate. So this one is for the men. I know I talk a lot to middle-aged ladies, but truly my goal on this planet is to help save all of Gen X, because I think we just got dealt a bad set of cards, right? For lots of reasons I won't go into. But I'm excited to talk about this today because I have a very hunky middle-aged husband who is on TRT, it stands for testosterone replacement therapy. He has been for some years. And I want to quickly run through 7 signs and symptoms that you may be low, that you are overlooking. And ladies, if you're listening, please take notes and share this with your husband. And if they don't believe you, then go ahead and see if they'll listen to this episode. So again, I'm going to set my timer. I want to make sure that I bust this out in 30 minutes or less so I don't waste anyone's time. The last symptom, and one we will not be discussing, is erectile dysfunction. And I'll tell you how this normally goes in my practice. So my practice for the bulk of my career was regenerative injection therapies. Visits would often, I think I'd probably treated 50-50 women and men, but visits with men would often be similar in that it was usually their shoulder or their knee. And when I would go to pull their pant leg up, I would notice right off the bat that they were missing hair on their shins. Now, this is something I noticed myself. I was never taught this. This was never something that came up in my training. I just started noticing lacking anterior shin hair on men. Maybe it was happening to women, but women tend to shave their legs. So I wouldn't notice it as much. Now, I will tell you in my own experience, now that it's many years later, and I did actually, which is probably TMI, but I did let my leg hair grow out in the midst of all of this moving. I was just so stressed, and I was constantly in pants anyway. So I was like, whatever. And I did notice that I also was missing some shin hair. And I also have low testosterone at this age. So it's both genders. But men would have low shin hair or missing shin hair or big balding spots on their anterior shin, on their tibia bone. And I would say, how's your testosterone? And I would always ask that because I wanted to let them present the information. I wanted to make it their idea. I'll tell you a secret, ladies and men, don't take any offense to this. If we let it be your idea, it's always much easier. So I would ask them the question, and some guys would say, I'm just not recovering well in the gym, or, my injuries aren't healing, or, my mood's been a little low. But most often than not, guys would get defensive and say, oh, I'm fine down there. And if I ask them straight out, like, hey, can we talk about the potential of low testosterone? Because that's very common as we age. Men go through andropause just like women go through menopause. And so I would, if I brought it up a different way, they would get defensive too. They would always get defensive if I brought it up another way. But if I asked them the question, like, how's your testosterone going? They would always be like, oh, I'm fine down there. Meaning they were not having any problems with libido or erectile function. And I was like, no, that's not what I'm talking about. That's actually usually, in my experience, one of the last symptoms that I see. That's usually a sign of pretty severe metabolic dysfunction. I've also seen it in younger men when they've had a lot of head injuries. I've also seen it in any aged man who drinks too much is where I usually tend to see erectile dysfunction. But usually it's in a middle-aged man, it's usually metabolic dysfunction. And they'll come in as that being a chief complaint. So I'm asking a guy who's in for his knees about his shin hair, about his testosterone, based on his shin hair, I should say. And they're assuming that I'm talking about something else. And then the next question they would say is, why are you even asking me that? Well, because I'm about to do a regenerative injection therapy, and those only work if you're in an anabolic state or you're in a state of healing. If you're not in a state of healing, and then you're in a catabolic state, then the injections aren't really going to take. And it's kind of a moot point. I mean, we might get somewhere, but probably not very far. So shin hair, sign number one. It's a big one. Across the board, their testosterone came back low. Across the board after I ran labs. So there's a pearl for all of you clinicians out there. If you see shin hair missing and balding on the anterior tibia, shin area, they may be dealing with low testosterone. I don't have any science to back that up. That's just something anecdotally I've seen for decades in clinical practice. I now have confirmed it in myself and a couple other women because I came from Oregon and lots of ladies didn't shave their legs there. So, and it's not just from your pants rubbing it off. And here's the other part to this and why I know it's true. When I would start treating them with TRT or testosterone replacement therapy, their shin hair would grow back. Recently, my husband came to me and he was on an off cycle. We cycle when we treat usually, although he's at the age now where we'll probably just keep him on. And he came to me and he's like, why are my shins bald? And I was like, oh, because your testosterone's low. Like, we know his testosterone runs low. I'm like, it's time to treat. And lo and behold, I checked with him 3 months later after resuming treatment and therapy. And he said, yeah, my shin hair grew back. So, okay, so there's sign number one. Again, no studies to back that up, just something anecdotal I've seen in clinical practice. Number two would be loss of muscle coupled with gain of visceral and truncal obesity. So visceral fat here coupled with sort of a, they kind of get an old man body with a pot belly. It's the best way I can explain it. Their arms start getting skinny. Their extremities start getting skinny. This is metabolic dysfunction, but I'll tell you without going into a long rant about it, if you are low in testosterone and you're trying to avoid diabetes, good luck. Truly, I believe that. I truly believe that if you need testosterone replacement therapy as a man and you do not receive it, your rates and risks of type 2 diabetes definitely go up. So one of the big signs of metabolic dysfunction is this visceral adiposity gain, truncal obesity, while we see the arms and legs start to get skinnier. We start to see atrophy in the distal extremities, if you will. And that's a sure sign. It's subtle though, and it's low key. Now, I noticed it in my husband pretty quickly because when I met him, he was on TRT. He was doing a manual labor job as an electrician, but he was digging these huge ditches to put in big lines of electricity for this giant building they were building. And he had a great build. I mean, he just had a phenomenal build and his upper body was really built. And yes, physical labor definitely helps that. He loves to be outside. He's a farmer. He loves to do landscaping and yard work. Like, he loves to be outside and pulling big bushes out and digging holes. And like, he's just super physical. But even with that, I would notice wasting in the extremities. So his arms and legs would get real skinny and he would definitely start to collect more fat around his midsection. So that is usually a sign of testosterone being off and needing it to be addressed. You have to be careful there because there's an enzyme in our belly fat called aromatase, and it likes to turn testosterone into estrogen. So if you start applying testosterone replacement therapy to an individual with a lot of truncal obesity, you run the risk of having a lot of aromatase activity and therefore ending up with a lot of estrogen in the system. And so I would make my male patients sign a contract that they were going to lift weights, back way up on the alcohol, particularly IPA beer. Beers in general are estrogen tinctures, but IPA is certainly an estrogen tincture. And just be willing to work with me on all the lifestyle pieces, because without the lifestyle pieces, I think it's really irresponsible to apply TRT to a male or a woman for that matter. I think it's irresponsible to apply hormones to somebody who's not doing all the things. And when I say all the things, I have a whole book about this, by the way. I wrote a book, you guys. I don't promote it. It's called Pain Free and Strong. I wrote it prior to COVID. It was kind of the Get Through COVID manual, actually. You can find it at drtina.com/book. It's free. go ahead and download it. It's a quick and easy read. It will tell you what all the things means when I throw that term around. I will say a cheat code for optimizing your testosterone naturally is to get hot. And this goes for you too, ladies. One of the fastest ways that I can think of when I'm trying to get somebody's hormones back online, including myself, when I just feel like, oh my gosh, I'm just off. I've been like eating out too much, maybe too many glasses of wine, maybe I haven't been sleeping well. And I'm just like, oh, I don't feel good. And I feel like I need that like reset button is to get hot. And the best way to do that is with a sauna. I recently just got a delivery from Sunlighten Saunas. It's my favorite sauna company for the walk-in box units. Hands down, my favorite sauna company. Really low, like to no negligible EMFs. Great wood quality, non-toxic glue. Super high quality saunas. I got the Amplify 3 and it is a dream. It is near, mid, and far infrared, not just the far infrared like the other one that I used to have from Sunlighten. It is a dream. And I will tell you, when you're just feeling flat, it is the kickstart. So when I say do all the things and that's feeling daunting, start with sauna. Sauna is a really quick and easy, efficient way to kick up and spark that vitality, get your heat shock proteins going. It'll do good things for your hormones. It'll help you start to detox. It'll get some of that sludge out of the system, if you will. I like to think it's doing good things for my liver as well. And we've got great data, particularly on men and cardiovascular disease. There was several studies done in Finland with Finnish sauna and significant, massive improvements in cardiovascular markers. So sauna, check out Sunlighten. You guys can check out the link in the show notes. Tell them that you heard all about this on the Dr. Tina Show, and they'll give you a very nice discount. But check out the Amplify. It is a sweet machine. It's the only one that they have that gets up to 170 degrees, although I'll admit I can't get up there. I get up to 150, and with that near, mid, and far infrared, I am just sweating. But it is phenomenal. And when my husband is feeling just kind of in the muck, that's one of the first things. I'm like, get your butt in the sauna, babe. So, and I do it to myself too. So that's my pearl is very quick way. It's also an exercise mimetic to some degree, meaning it doesn't necessarily replace exercise, but it can give you that cardiovascular boost that exercise would simply by sitting there and having getting a good sweat on. The other thing to consider is that TRT doesn't always induce weight loss. So there's got to be a plan there. And whether you're utilizing a GLP-1 along with lifestyle changes, again, you shouldn't be doing a GLP-1 without the lifestyle pieces, but there needs to be something there to address that truncal obesity. Okay, another sign would be not necessarily erectile dysfunction, frank, but and not necessarily loss of libido, but they're just not instigating it as much. And I get that there's a lot of dynamics happening here because when you take a middle-aged woman going through menopause and her hormones are falling out, she's not interested. He is going to give up potentially on trying to instigate. But there's just a less of a like rare. They have less of that. So it's not necessarily something they would notice unless you inquire or they feel forthcoming. That's a hard topic to breach with a man when you're a female doctor. But I do always try to probe because I want, labs are one thing. And I'll always find, I've never ran T on a guy and found it to be optimized unless that guy was in great shape and was kind of already living the lifestyle with awareness of optimizing testosterone. That your average middle-aged guy is going to have low T across the board is what I found. Anyway, Clint, I've run thousands of labs, even borderline low. And as with women during that phase, it's important that we go with lifestyle symptoms too. Like that's part of the chart note that justifies treatment. It doesn't have to just be low labs. It could very much be a symptomology picture that completely justifies the, trial run of TRT to see if they feel better on it. And so that sort of lack of zest for instigating intimacy, they kind of quit. My husband always walks by me and he's always patting me and we have a cute little way of flirting. And when he stops doing that, that's when I know that it's just that kind of drive to seek out intimacy that they lose. It's not so much, I mean, if the opportunity presents itself, yeah, their libido's good. And yeah, everything's working just fine. It's just sort of that like lack of seeking. We don't necessarily want that. I mean, we don't want our men out prowling either, right? We want them to prowl for us. But if you start to notice that your man is not really kind of looking at you with those sexy eyes, it might not be that it's your fault. Like I know a lot of women, we blame ourselves and we think, oh, I'm getting kind of this middle-aged body and I'm not feeling it. And he's just kind of not interested. It might just be that his testosterone's low. So I wanted to put that out there. Okay, the other big one is loss of drive and edge and initiative in general. They may feel burnout at work. They may feel like not going out of the house. They may feel like not being social anymore. It's this sort of loss of drive. Maybe they were really into something and then just not into it anymore. It might be a hobby. You know, I hear this all the time. Like my husband was really into this and he's just not into it anymore. Maybe he's depressed. Well, yeah, but maybe his testosterone's low, leading to that kind of low mood. So it's this, testosterone is it causes you to seek, right? It brings a very, and I don't have time to dispel all the rumors, but that whole image of men taking testosterone and turning into monsters is so ridiculous. And in fact, I think that men with low testosterone and lack of purpose far more dangerous than a man fully optimized with testosterone and a man fully in his power and fully in the best version of him. Those men are calm, they're centered, they're good leaders, they have good drive, they find purpose in their life, they find purpose with their church and their community and their family. When a man loses testosterone, he sort of starts to veer away from that and it just falls away slowly. So maybe he's really into fixing up motorcycles or his cars and then they start just sort of rusting in the garage. It's that lack of zest. Same thing for us ladies, like purpose and drive come from testosterone. And so when we see that waning, I don't usually think, oh, my husband is depressed. I think he needs some tea. That's usually, I'm like, oh, baby needs a little, we got to get him back on the cycle because he's not feeling good. And we use appropriate physiologic, prescription medication, and it's all very much on the up. So that's a big one. I think another big one there we could tie in there, I'll leave it with that category, is lack of drive to be physical, not just with intimacy, but maybe they don't want to go to the gym anymore. They don't want to go hang out and play whatever it is maybe they play pickleball or basketball or golf or whatever it is they are into physically with their other male colleagues. And you'll see that too. You'll see them not wanting to hang out with their dudes as much. Really optimized men who are very much in their power and their testosterone is solid, they want to hang out with other men. There's something to that. It's very, very visceral. It's very ancient. It's, I know because I went to chiropractic college and it was all dudes. And I'll tell you, you just could get a hit of testosterone by being in the room. It was great. Like very healthy physical men who are fit, have good, healthy testosterone levels. This is why sportsmanship is so great, right? And for women too, but there's something different there hormonally. We're getting more of an oxytocin, estrogen hit. So if they just quit seeking out or tend to be slacking off on the seeking out of the companionship of other men, I start to wonder if their testosterone is okay. Another big sign is what I mentioned earlier, which a lot of guys will actually admit to, pretty forthcoming with the fact that they're not getting the gains in the gym. It's just not happening. Or usually it's both. They're getting injured more. So you get a naggy, and women too, if you are getting naggy injuries that aren't healing and you're not getting gains, something is wrong with your hormones. And it's usually a combo of estrogen and testosterone for women. But for men, definitely, that's a huge sign. More achiness, more injuries, like tearing of ligaments and tendons, less drive to go to the gym, but also just way less gains. Like it's just not happening. It's not as fun. Like the process of strength training is really a personal one. And it's really a satisfying journey when you're getting some gains. And even if you're not getting bigger, you're getting stronger. And even if maybe you're not going heavier on the weights, that strength starts to really, old man strength is real. My husband has the most phenomenal old man strength, and that only comes from very well-trained muscle for a long time. And we have data on this. This is like, I used to just call it old man strength, and it was this sort of myth, but it's true. I mean, those muscle fibers really long-term, men who have been strong and kept themselves strong and kept themselves physical in whatever capacity. My husband hates the gym, by the way. He loves being physical, like pulling tree roots out of the ground. And that's how he deadlifts. But it's true old man strength and, muscles that fire together, wire together. And it's this long-standing wiring and firing of fibers and the central nervous system together that lead to this kind of strength. All of a sudden that starts to wane. And they're pretty aware, like he's real physical on the farm and he's very clear. If he can't get a wrench to go or like something that he's used to doing pretty effortlessly, he's like, what's wrong with me? I'm losing my strength. And so I think it's important. And I'll say the other thing, men, and this whole idea that you have to have a six-pack is such nonsense. Actually, in women too, carrying a little bit of belly fat on you, not like a gut, but a little bit of adiposity really leads to tremendous strength gains. Like when I see guys that are very fit and they have a little layer of adipose, those guys are usually super strong. This whole getting super lean and super jacked, I don't think it's conducive to longevity at all. I don't think it's conducive for men or women to longevity at all. Now, maybe you're built that way. Maybe you're just there are people out there that have always had nice flat abs. Their body does not deposit adipose in that region at all. Good for them. Like rock your abs. But I have found long-term, especially if you want to make it through cold and flu season, if you get hit with a hard illness, I would not want to go into my 50s or go into, like, God forbid, cancer or some other huge diagnosis with 0 to exceptionally low body fat. I just wouldn't. I know that that's the current aesthetic, and that's been the aesthetic for a long time. That's a whole other thing. That doesn't mean it's the most optimal for overall health. So if you're carrying a little bit of adiposity on your body, as long as it's in good, healthy regions and you're strong as heck, men, don't lose that, because my husband has reported this and many of my male patients have reported that when they lost too much fat and they got real lean, maybe they looked better, but we didn't see tremendous improvements in blood pressure or other markers, and they would always report the same thing, which was loss of strength, probably because their testosterone was bottoming out. We also have data on that. Guys that run really, really lean tend to have testosterone issues. So that's another big one. If you're in the gym or whatever sport or physical activity you're doing and you're just not getting it, right? You're trying to get after it. That's the term, right? You know what I mean? If you're one of those, I know what it means when people say get after it. You're getting after it, nothing's happening. And on top of it, potentially you're getting these little micro injuries that just nag and won't heal. That's a big sign when you won't heal. My husband knows exactly, he comes in literally covered with scratches. And since he's been doing all this landscaping in Arizona, like huge barbed tips of the yucca plant or of the agave or whatever, like spears and cactus spears embedded in his flesh, and he won't let me do any kind of minor surgery to get them out. And they sit there and look horrific until his body pushes them out. But he's like, oh, it'll take 2 weeks. Like, he knows his body so well. And when it's not responding the way that he's used to, we look at testosterone first. So hopefully that is very helpful. If you know what I'm laying down here, you know what I'm laying down here. Another big one is emotional flatness. I see this in women as their estrogen leaves too. Just this flat affect. It's akin to depression, but it's not necessarily depression. I've had it. It's a terrible place to be. And it's just a flatness, low mood. But what I will add to this, and I hate to say this, but this is what happens every time. This is to the men. They almost get kind of bitchy. And what I end up saying to my husband, like, he's just acting irrationally. And I'm like, what is wrong with you? I'm so used to him being so calm. And he's like, I don't know, he's just a natural GABA hit for me. He's just such a calm, stable, like I joke that he's my emotional support animal. He is so calm and stable and even keeled. And then when he's like doing this with his mood, I'm like, what is wrong with you? And I'll tell you what is wrong. His testosterone is usually low, especially in ratio to his estrogen. And his brain isn't happy there. And so everything sets him off. And I've had this with many patients. Everything is confrontational. I could be presenting their lab work to them, showing them that they're like, here's the lab markers that are off, and here's the lifestyle behavior that's related to that. They get defensive. I've had male patients yell at me. I've had male patients threaten to punch me. I've had male patients get up and storm out, only to call back later. In every situation, actually, all apologies. I've had male patients threaten me, come across my desk threatening me. And then their wives call me or they call me and they're like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I don't know what came over me. But I can tell by looking at their labs what came over them. And I'm not justifying it or saying it's okay. But it is just kind of this like you're talking to your husband and he's kind of dull and flat. But then all of a sudden he's hot, he's pissy, and and you're just like, whoa, dude, what the frick is wrong with you? And it's really easy to fight back, right? Because I'm just like, what? You feel like you got kind of smacked by the person who's your calm. And then I'm in perimenopause and then it starts, right? And that's when I'm like, whoa. Hold up. He was either tired or hungry in that moment. If it persists, I got to check his testosterone levels. We got to talk about, what's going on there. So you can interpret that any way you want. This is not a diss on men by any means. No, I love men. I think men are great. Very glad to have them as part of the human race. But there's something there. There's something that is very specific. And ladies, you know what I'm talking about. If you are in a relationship with a middle-aged man and you've seen this, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Get their testosterone checked. It's worth it. And men, if you're not noticing you're doing this, or maybe you are noticing, don't be hard on yourself and think you're a horrible person. You might just need some testosterone. It's fair. Another big one is pain. Just straight up pain. And it's usually all your old injuries coming back to haunt you. It's the old aches and pains. It's the old football injury. It's the old, basketball injury. It's the old car accident. And they come back to haunt you and they nag, they low-key nag. And if you go to an orthopedist, they're going to give you a shot of cortisone for old chronic injury. It makes no sense. If you go to see someone like me for regenerative injection therapy, I'm going to suggest something like prolotherapy or PRP, maybe even stem cells. But there's no version where I'm not going to offer you TRT because we got to get your levels up. I mean, 99% of the time, those people have low T. And so I'm going to want to optimize you before I treat you because that's going to help you. Again, it's anabolic. It helps you heal. So we want to make sure all healing mechanisms are good to go before we apply any kind of treatment, especially some kind of expensive treatment, right? These treatments are not covered by insurance. And if you're going in for a stem cell procedure, there's a lot of clinics around here in Arizona charging ridiculous amounts. And you want to make sure you're fully optimized before you go receive them. Otherwise, you're not going to get the best results. We are, in essence, taking your own fluids and processing them and concentrating them down and putting them back in your body. So we need those fluids to be of high caliber, and we need your ability to heal and regenerate to be of high caliber. And that requires, things like good thyroid output, good testosterone output. Another big sign is cognitive alertness. I know I've talked about mood and affect, but your actual sharpness, like your brain, how fast your brain processes. I know for me as a woman, the only example I can give is my own experience. But when my estrogen was low, I was losing my superpowers. I was losing that ability to process a lot of information all at once and have a very sharp return and reply. And when I'm looking for words and I can't quite think of the phrase I want to use and I'm just going, it feels like my brain is slugging through molasses and I'm forgetting things, it's usually a sign that my hormones are off. Same for you guys, men. If you are feeling that loss of sharpness, and I see this in the workplace, right? If you are in a high power position and all of a sudden you are not performing at a high power level, your colleagues will notice probably before you do, which feels very embarrassing. It's often a lack of testosterone. A big driver of this is the onset of use of statin medication. Now, I'm not completely anti-statin. I'm not a huge fan. I have my own opinion I'll talk about. Don't come at me. The cardiologists on here love to come at anyone questioning statins. I think there's a time and a place. I think the blanket use of statins across the board is utterly ridiculous. And I don't think that the outcomes that are promised are nearly as good when you actually look at the data. But I will say they decrease your testosterone levels. They inhibit hormone synthesis. And cholesterol synthesis, that's what they do. And your hormones are made out of cholesterol. So as your cholesterol is being lowered by the statin drugs, so is your natural endogenous testosterone production. And one of the big side effects can be, and this is even if, forget the statin, just your testosterone's waning. There's lots of reasons for that. You could have had a lot of head injuries as a kid. I see this a lot in ex-hockey players, ex-football players, even at young ages. I see them unable to have adequate testosterone levels because they just got hit in the head too many times. There's lots of reasons why. Chronic stress will do it. Chronic metabolic dysfunction will do it. Lots of reasons. These are nothing that any of you need to feel. I think it's so ridiculous that we blame people for their health situation like decades after the damage was done, right? We don't know why necessarily, and there's no reason to sit there and get hung up on, I should have done this, or you are where you are. If you need testosterone, you need testosterone, in my opinion. And it's really important that be addressed because that's your brain essentially rewiring and shrinking. You're losing gray matter. So this is a change. This is a shift in women. That shift supposedly passes and you rewire and you're supposed to be good. Although I just pulled up an article the other day, I'll do an episode on it, showing that's not the case. Like truly, the loss of estrogen leads to traumatic shifts in mood and affect and depression and, unaliving ideation kind of thing. And I would say the same is true for men. When it really depends on your brain and how that testosterone has been in your brain, and then you lose it, it starts leaving the scene or leaving the building, as I like to say, and you really can have some impacts on not just your sharpness and your attitude and your ability to process high cognitive function at, a very fast pace that you're maybe used to, but you can have some tremendous shifts in your mood. And it's devastating. It can be devastating. And I'll leave you with this. The family cannot function if the mom is not happy because she's a special kind of glue. She's a special kind of oxytocin, love, heart-centered, nurturing glue that the family desperately needs. And the family she cannot be in her full feminine power and feel good if her man isn't on target. If his testosterone's low, if she's having to drive the bus, if she's having to run the family, if she's having to be all the things, and there's a tremendous load on her of stress, it will bottom her hormones out and she will get bitchy and bitter. And then that feeds down into the children and everybody else. So I think it's even more important that in a heterosexual relationship, and I would dare say in a homosexual relationship, like we need our hormones in the right balance, and that requires, in women, we need a certain amount of oxytocin and nurturing. And men, they need purpose, they need drive, they need to feel accomplished. It's really interesting. I read a study a couple years ago, and it was talking about how women who were home all day would get upset because their man would be working too much or gone too much and thinking, he's fooling around on me, or he's not here, or he's not here enough for the children, or he's not here enough for me to support me. But in reality, the man's brain is wired for purpose and work and drive, and he's out there taking extra shifts and doing extra hours and thinking he's doing the right thing for the family. And he is, and his that's how his brain is optimized, and his hormones are optimized in suit because he's out there doing the things that are best for the family. And that might mean he works, an extra shift or works graveyard or does all these things. And the woman's over here like, well, you don't love me anymore because you're never around and you're not here to help me with the children, or you don't want to be around the children. And he's like, what are you talking about? Like, I'm doing literally what I'm supposed to be doing. And he truly believes, and that is it. That's the dichotomy. That's the confusion. So all that to say is when middle age hits, both genders are going through some tremendous changes, and to optimize everyone's hormones, we need certain things in place. So I would argue that the man getting testosterone be also a priority. I know all you ladies, and that's why I made this episode. I know all you ladies are like, we got to get our hormones dialed, and that's why you come to me. And I know that it's right now, it's finally, thanks to the work of Mary Claire Haver and Kelly Casperson and Vonda Wright and many others, that this conversation has come up, and maybe Gen X will be saved the fate that the prior generations were not given, and that they will get the HRT they deserve, but so do men. And it's not a quick go through the TRT, you hear the ads on the radio and they go through these like TRT clinics where they just turn and churn you like cattle. You have to make sure that their gut health is optimized. You have to make sure that the lifestyle pieces are optimized. Those are non-negotiable. We have to make sure that men's cardiovascular system is supported. That's a big one. When we're utilizing TRT, yes, that they had just as much of a scare as we did, women. They had nonsensical data come out saying TRT causes heart disease and cardiovascular risk. That's only if their estrogen goes up. That's the part they didn't tell you. So TRT is quite safe in an optimized individual, in a man. And we need to be addressing everybody's hormones, especially in middle age, so that both parties are happy. And if your wife is going to see a hormone replacement therapy specialist, then go schedule with them too. Go with them. Do this together. And ladies, if your husband is getting his hormones optimized, get on the bus and get your hormones optimized too, because everybody is much happier when the family unit and the roles, and I hate to use the word roles, but our hormones function better when certain things are in place. So again, when the woman is feeling nurtured and loved and supported, she can be in her feminine energy and her estrogen truly is better. My hormones get crazy when I have to sort of take the reins. If I have to take the reins for too long, I do not feel good. I don't look right. I don't feel right. My labs look really wonky. When I'm allowed to sit back and be taken care of a little bit, and yes, I am predominantly the breadwinner in this family, but my husband does so much to support me so that I can do my best. He makes sure I'm fed. He makes sure the house is beautiful. He makes sure he drives me everywhere. He's my bodyguard, literally. There's so many things he does to protect my energy and make me feel safe. And that allows me to definitely step more into my feminine. It helps so much. It helps so much. And when that's not there, women don't do well. And men too. Men need to feel in purpose. They need to feel that like rawr, And so part of that is getting your hormones optimized. I'll quit harping on it. I hope I just made my case though, because a lot of men are resistant to this, thinking I don't need it because somehow it means defeat. It does not at all mean defeat. It means we're not giving you the hormones of a 25-year-old, dude. We're just trying to optimize you physiologically so that you can be the best 45-year-old or the best 55-year-old or the best 65-year-old that you can be. And then it's your job to pick up the work of doing all the things. That means you're going to the gym. That means you're watching your alcohol intake. That means you're eating like a responsible adult. It means you're going to bed. You're not staying up all night on the TV. It means you're managing your stress. Again, I talk about what all the things are inside my book. You can grab it at drtina.com/book. It's a quick, easy read, and I think you guys will really enjoy it. Talk about like foreshadowing, talk about visioning. That girl was wearing colors and light colors and had long silver hair. So I started growing my hair out. Like, talk about intention, right? I'm like, okay, I'm going to grow my hair out. The Tina you met in 2020 had short hair because she had just chopped it all off so she could let her silver grow out. So many of you, men and women, but women in particular, we are having hair loss in middle age, and it's awful. And I will tell you, a lot of the women that you see that are middle-aged, that have big followings, they're using